I was reading a tweet a couple of days ago, and it was a lady speaking about going to her vet. She said that her vet had described a phenomenon where cats were getting depressed because, as he surmised, their owners weren't leaving like they normally do. A problem that he noted was not present in dogs. And from that comes tonight's lit game, which is a bit of a discussion about how dialogue works, but mostly just being silly, where I sort of try to take account of this whole nasty year from the perspective of my cat, Smudge, who, if I'm lucky, he may make an appearance tonight, but we'll see. How are all of you tonight? My name is Rory, and this is the Varietal show, where we basically do live writing and try to be a little silly and write along with the chat. Hopefully everyone can hear me. Let me know in the chat if the sound is okay. Sorry about that. There we are. All right. Now, normally we start off the night with a book recommendation in a section we call Left on Red. Holly says that is not Smudge in the picture. Lies. That is not Smudge in the picture. We'll do a little bit of Left on Red, but I'm not going to spend too much time on it. I want us to get to the writing, and I don't want us to miss too much getting there. There we are. GS says sound is excellent. Thank you for letting me know. All right. So Left on Red is where I talk about things that I have read that I am going to recommend. It isn't just books, though. It can be films and so on. But I'm actually going to reiterate something that I've already recommended before that I don't know if you folks have actually followed through on, but I think you should. I'm going to recommend that you read the first 200 pages of the Truth and Reconciliation Report. And I think I'll continue to recommend that about once a month. Keep it in your mind. If you're wondering how to get that, Google Truth and Reconciliation Report. The actual report's about 10,000 pages long. So what you want to look for is kind of the first part, the introduction. Just sort of does an overview of history and the events leading up to the Truth and Reconciliation Report, starting back in about the 14th century, I think it is, or 15th century. That's what I think you should read. Beyond that, I don't really have much to recommend this week. I'm still chipping away at Dune. So, oh yes, that's right. Dance break. Da 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 da. That's higher than I can go. All right. So anyways, today, as I said, we are doing a lit game about my cat. So, what about my cat? Well, my cat themselves are actually is a pretty nice cat, a bit of an anxious and needy cat. But I just thought maybe we could take a look at what my cat might have been thinking of this year while all of this happened. Hello, Suki. Holly's House says, you can spend the new Truth and Reconciliation chat on the 30th, stat on the 30th reading it. I'm not sure what you're trying to say there, Holly. Could you try put it another way? So, this is also an opportunity for me to talk to you about what I know about dialogue. So, which I think is interesting. But if you don't think it's interesting, just simply writing words for my little cat may yet entertain you. So let's start with what dialogue is in writing, and then I will tell you a little bit more about the structure we're going to have here. So my cat's name is Smudge. And you notice that below it there's a blank spot for motivation and goal. So a goal is the thing that a character's trying to reach, and a motivation is why they want to reach it. So a character may be trying to reach the peak of a mountain. That's their goal, and their motivation to do so is to prove their father wrong or something. Big Drew says, tonight's story can be summed up in a song title, Every Day is Exactly the Same by Nine Inch Nails. I don't know if they're sad about that, though. There's a new stat holiday. Oh, stat holiday. I get it. Being introduced this month. Well, that's good. Let's go read the Truth and Reconciliation report. It's not hard reading. So Smudge is my cat. Now, why do I need to know their goal and their motivation? So I'm going to give you something that I learned from writing school that hopefully clarifies a bit. In a movie, which is what most of us tend to absorb, if you have conflict between two characters and you want to show that, the action sequences are where that happens, whether that's like throwing glasses at each other or fighting or the, siege or whatever else, where their horns meet, where they physically fight and how they fight. That's the action of a movie. And movies are very good for that because they're visual. Stories, on the other hand, as we explored in our action RNG one, are not good at action. And it doesn't really capture the excitement or the conflict of ideas the way fights on film do. Instead, the action and the conflict and the fights of writing are in the dialogue. So the way it was put to me was dialogue is not conversation. In our lives and when we talk to each other, we just sort of converse. But dialogue is sort of a battle where each person in the story has their own goals they're trying to get across, and it's the thing left unsaid, and they use their words to basically try to fight for that. And that's what makes dialogue in books a little strange compared to how normal people converse. It's also what makes it compelling, though. So in order for us to have a conversation with my cat about quarantine, we have to know what my cat's goal and motivation is. So, again, goal is what they want. Motivation is why they want it. So, what do we think a cat's goal is? Traditionally, it's food, but I will say that my cat is not terribly food motivated. But it's going to be something a little more concrete. So their motivation would be, why they would do things to reach that goal. So, for example, my cat might be annoyed that I'm rubbing his belly, so he will be motivated to bite me so that I will stop rubbing his belly. That would be the goal. So before we deal anything with dialogue, which again is not conversation, it's sort of a where ideas go to war in books, what do you think my cat's motivation is? I see it as potentially a few things. A, food. B, attention. C, freedom. Big Drew says, Smudge was perturbed by the constant, incessant buzzing of the fly. For this reason, Smudge was hell-bent on destroying the fly. Yes, exactly. There you go. Motivation and goal. Very clean and clear. Food, attention, freedom. Cats hate a closed door. Holly's House says, be warned, I'm probably just going to smudge into Salem. Turn Smudge into Salem, I'm assuming you mean. From Sabrina the Teenage Witch. Oh man, I haven't thought about that in a long time. What a height of animatronics that was. GS says sleep. Sleep is big, yeah. Sleep. Sleep would be more of a goal, though, and food would be more of a goal. So I will put those under potential goals. Food. Sleep. So with that in mind, chat, what do you think? Just to sort of keep this from dragging too much. What do you think cats are most motivated by? A constant need for attention or a need for freedom? I mean, my instinctual answer is yes. Suki says Smudge loses his mind over little birds. He does. He does. And he gets very annoyed when you stop him from killing little birds. Because they walk him on a leash. Let's go with freedom. If I see a big vote otherwise, we'll go with freedom. Because I think freedom suits a lot of goals. I do get the impression that cats want freedom. Because their goal is the hunt, which can also be food, which can also just be roaming, and sleeping. Like, they just want the freedom to do whatever their whims, wherever their whims take them with no obstruction. Alright, so we have a motivation and goal. We can always revisit this. So I found this actually today, and I thought this was hilarious, and it's a good way, I think, to kind of get ourselves into the voice of Smudge. It was on one of these kind of like clean your spirit meditation websites, and it said it's 6 questions to ask yourself in quarantine every day. And I laughed at the thought of my cat having to answer these questions. So the first question is, what am I grateful for today? Now, my perception of cats is that they're a bit grumpy and constantly annoyed by how stupid they think we are. So what am I grateful for today? So if I'm imagining Smudge and he can talk and we're in quarantine together, what am I grateful for today? That my human sleeps in so I can get on with my hunting. The house would be overrun with predator spiders and moths were it not for my tireless work. Big Drew says grateful beams of sunlight. Yes, grateful for beams of sunlight. I'm gonna make that a note. Things they are grateful for. I guess to answer the question, the warm spots show up around this time, though often my aimless human interrupts them by oppressive cuddles. All right. I don't know if I'm getting the voice right. You guys let me know. But if my cat was asking these 6 questions of itself in quarantine, number 1, what am I grateful for today? I think the answer would be that my human sleeps in so I can get on with my hunting. The house would be overrun with predator spiders and moths were it not for my tireless work. Also, the warm spots show up around this time, though often my aimless human interrupts them with oppressive cuddles. Nathan says, grateful for the little walks my human goes on so I can get some damn time to myself. Perfect. I do like that. Once they awaken, I do appreciate they can walk themselves and give me some peace and quiet. Checking in, connecting, Big Drew says, the alley cat's down the block and the stunning cat across the street. Peace and quiet, I can take that onto here. To sing to the tabby that crosses on our fence. Rory, who is the aimless human here? You or me? Yes, Suki, yes. It's... I mean, from Smudge's perspective, we do no hunting. So... he must just think we're useless idiots. He doesn't understand the notion of money or job. He's like, you idiots just sit and watch lights all day. I'm the only one trying to keep us alive. Okay, I'm gonna circle back to what am I grateful for. Again, my cat asking 6 questions for yourself in quarantine. Number 2, who am I checking in on or connecting with today? Like a cat would care. I don't know how to answer that. Who am I checking in on or connecting with today? I'm just gonna put, why would I do that? I can barely get a moment to myself. We'll see if chat has anything better to add to that. Sorry, water break. Here, let me differentiate the questions a bit. They're kind of blending in on the screen. The Hot Big Drew says, the feline banditos from down the alley. Holly laughs. Jess says, the neighbor next door who gives treats. Now and then I entertain some other free-range humans in the neighborhood by accepting their offerings of food. It is often not to my taste, but I allow them to offer it. Suki says, Smudge always visits me in the morning to say hello and make up muffins. Okay. Oh, also, I have to make sure my humans haven't forgotten how to breathe. So I do a bit of CPR on them in the morning. They seem to appreciate the assistance. Though it is tedious. Well, Smudge is a Ghibli character, Holly. Getting outside, trust fall out the window. What expectations of normal am I letting go of today? Again, we're asking this of my cat, who is motivated by freedom and has a goal of living its life. And it's sort of coming from this concept of looking at how a thing talks based on those motivations. And I think basically the idea, what expectations of normal am I letting go of today? Personal space. My humans have failed to occupy themselves. Their walks are much shorter, and they do not hunt. Well, I understand I am an incredible creature. Much of my greatness is based on my adventures and whims, which they now more often interrupt. For unwelcome bouts of adulation. Vanessa says hair nap, and then corrects herself. Hairball in the usual spot. Let's change it up, lol. Big Drew says that my humans will ever leave the damn house. Yeah. Okay, hairball. How would a cat describe a hairball? That's an interesting challenge. I have changed the locations of my leavings. I have changed the locations of my leavings from grooming, as since my humans are about more often, I am hoping they will realize how they are failing in my grooming needs. Fluffy mouth projectile. I mean, I'm working on the assumption that cats think everything they do and create are wonderful. Because that is very much how they carry themselves. Okay, how am I getting outside today? Now, I understand what this question means in the context of a human. But when I think about this from the perspective of a cat is going to see that as a logistics problem because they always want to go outside. So how am I getting outside today? By waiting at the door and moving quicker than the fat one when he puts the boxes in the outside boxes. A strange ritual I bother not to question. Big Drew, my grooming practices have gotten out of hand. This morning I regurgitated a blob of hair in the kitchen while my people were making breakfast. I'm gonna build on that. I'm gonna put it back in the other question. Oop. Come on, just give me normal text. Base for the formatting. There we go. My grooming, I'm gonna say needs, have gotten out of hand. This morning I gifted a message of hair in a clean, spit-bound bundle upon the kitchen floor. But my people were making breakfast, and apparently no one's greater needs can interrupt their fascination with foul and crispy food. Nathan says, I've timed the big one's movement upon his return to my home to a millisecond. Today is the day. Yeah, I'm definitely using that. By waiting at the door and moving quicker than then. I have timed the big one's movements, and upon his return to my home, I've timed the big one's movements to a millisecond. To the millisecond, let's say. And upon his return to my home, I shall act. Today is the day. I am no one's slave. Okay. How am I moving my body today? Okay, again, we're asking, we're adopting the voice of my cat in quarantine. These are 6 questions from a website that you're supposed to ask yourself. You know, what? You're supposed to ask these questions every day you're in quarantine. But we're doing it as if my cat was answering these questions for themselves. And so the question, how am I moving my body today, is hilarious. I am at a buffet table of potential answers here, and I find myself paralyzed with choice. Yeah, so there's the first one. Big Drew says, as little as possible. How am I moving my body today? Not voluntarily. Often, well, I gather my strength in the warm spots of light. Often will I gather my strength in the warm spots of light. I am interrupted by both of the humans I keep here. I understand they struggle with worry. I worry for them as well. They can barely catch food. But it is far too much to ask that I awake at their every concern. Nonetheless, if movement must be had, I assure you, I do move. From atop their shoulders. and in their oversized arms. Oh wow, we got a lot of options here. Okay, let's see what I can work in. Must only move body and path of large ones. Yes. Oh my god, he's so bad for that. Sometimes I choose to assist them, as I know they are coming anyways. But then they just kick me. They are mercurial. And without shame. Brig Drew says, occasionally when provoked by a beam of light emanating from father's hand. Laser pointer. Oh. I wonder if they understand it comes from your hand. I think some cats do, but I think my cat's kind of dumb. I think he might just view that as another intruder. The Vanessa Yep says, there is a criteria that must be met for me to move. Is it an ungodly hour? Are my humans asleep? Only then will I get the insatiable urge to race through the house like a ferocious hunter I am. I like it. I'm going to make some adjustments. Because I think it fits with this motivation. Because one thing about characters is they're always reasonable onto their own terms. They always understand themselves, right? So, here's how I think a cat would reason this. There is a criteria that must be met for me to move. Is it an hour when the humans have abandoned watch despite my need of it? You need more drama queen, Rory. Smudge is deeply wounded if we make any mistakes. Well, give me some ideas. If we kick him, what do you think he says? He is a drama queen. Actually, it would be R. Criteria is a plural. They say they sleep, but they sleep in the dangerous times of night. Thus I am left with no choice but to check all corners of the house by myself. Like the ferocious hunter I am. Okay, so how am I moving my body today? So again, these are questions that my cat would ask themselves in quarantine. There's questions that were meant to be asked. A person's meant to ask of themselves, and we're sort of exploring how motivation and goal create certain dialogue choices by giving a voice to my cat answering these questions. So this was a longer answer, so I'm going to reread it. How am I moving my body today? Not voluntarily. Often while I gather my strength in the warm spots of light, I am interrupted by both of the humans I keep here. I understand they struggle with worry. I worry for them as well. They can barely catch food. But it is far too much to ask that I awake at their every concern. Nonetheless, if movement must be had, I assure you I do move from atop their shoulders and in their oversized arms. Sometimes I choose to assist them, as I know they are coming anyways, but then they just kick me. They are mercurial and without shame. There are other criteria that must be met for me to move. Is it an hour when the humans have abandoned watch despite my need of it? They say they sleep, but they sleep in the dangerous times of night. Thus I am left with no choice but to check all corners of the house by myself, like the ferocious hunter I am. Okay, we do need a little more drama, though. So, they are mercurial and without shame. Despite the great sacrifices I make, one sacrifices such as my peace, my freedom, my need for support, or even just privacy. They disregard all my kindnesses and attack me for no reason. Yes, I will move then, but not for them or for me. Rather for the dignity of all living things in oppression. Okay. What... I had read these questions ahead of time, and I had thought about them in the context of today, but for some reason they're really hitting me differently now that we've kind of worked out this melodrama voice. What beauty am I creating, cultivating, or inviting in today? So what would my cat say to that? What beauty, what is beautiful to a cat? Themselves? That's dramatic, alright, says GS about the, I mean, I've said it a few times. Cats are basically little mammalian narcissists. We accept it because, you know, they don't talk and we're stronger than them. By the way, I'm hoping that Smudge will come in here and I can show you all Smudge before the end of the stream. That's how I kind of want to cap it off. But I think first we got to figure out, like, how is my cat going to answer these questions? What beauty am I creating, cultivating, or inviting in today? Well, themselves, of course. Cats think they're beautiful. Why should anyone ask me this who can see the gloss on my coat and the beauty in my eyes? Nathan says, my daily bathing rituals preserve my example of beauty for the humans. Yes. Perfect. Let me get that in. My daily bathing rituals. I suppose you could say my daily bathing rituals, which the humans fail to assist me in consistently, preserve my example of beauty for them to learn from. I hope that it is a mud upon their eyes that can let me say this again. I hope the mud upon their eyes can be peeled away by my radiance, and for the first time they can observe real beauty. Suki says I can bring him in, but he won't like it. Whatever, he won't like anything. All right. So, what beauty am I creating, cultivating, or inviting in today? Why should anyone ask me this who can see the gloss on my coat and the beauty in my eyes? I suppose you could say my daily bathing rituals, which the humans fail to assist me in consistently, preserve my example of beauty for them to learn from. I do hope the mud upon their eyes can be peeled away by my radiance, and for the first time they may observe real beauty. For now, they say I am kawaii, or a button, one of which is nonsense to me, and the other I clearly am not. I see a smudge coming. Okay, if you want to see my cat, you can't bail out. Because I think we're done with the last question, unless anybody wants to add anything. So I'm going to ask him these questions, see how he answers. Oh, okay. Smudge is saying you have to like and subscribe if you want him to come on the stream. Go on. Oh, he's a little button. Oh, it's my little muffin. Don't turn off my mic, please. Oh, you're so unhappy. There's so much struggle in you. Say hello. Look at how unhappy he is. Okay. Smudge, I have some questions for you. What are you grateful for today? Well, what's that? That my human oversleeps, so I can get on with my hunting. The house would be overrun with predator spiders and moss were it not for my tireless work. Oh, that's right. The warm spot shows up around this time, though often my aimless human interrupts them with their oppressive cuddles. Once they awaken, I do appreciate they can walk themselves and give me some peace and quiet to sing to the tabby that crosses our fences. Big Drew says, does Smudge have the voice of a vain aristocrat? Good point. Who are you checking in with today or connecting with? Well, besides me. Why would I do that? I can barely get a moment to myself. Now and then I entertain some free-range humans in the neighborhood by accepting their offerings of food. It is often not to my taste, but I allow them to offer it. Oh, also I have to make sure my humans haven't forgotten how to breathe, so I do a bit of CPR on them in the morning. They seem to appreciate the assistance, though it is tedious. Yes, no, he definitely wants to go. Well, he doesn't want to go. He probably wants to walk on my computer. Oh, there he goes. He's behind the computer. He's just pretending he's camera shy. All right, I've probably taken this as far as it can go. Oh, there's a little Smudge tail. Holly says, I've always pictured Smudge sounding like Michael J. Fox. That is way too humble. Vanessa says, more importantly, does Smudge have an Instagram? Lol. No. But I will agree that if we get to 50 subscribers on the YouTube channel, I'll put up pictures of Smudge sometimes. Gotta, Smudge wants us to do well. Okay. Well, I think we've probably milked this for as much as it's worth. The truth is that this is kind of how dialogue works. I mean, the nice thing about sort of set questions is you can see how different things would answer them. Like dogs would not answer this. But again, the reason why dogs would answer it differently is because they have different motivations and different goals. And that's why it's really important to know motivations and goals. That's what makes a different voice in a story. You're like, who cares? There was a cat. That's all I care about. Which brings us really to almost the end of the show, where I give unqualified advice. Well, my unqualified advice is advice that was given to me years ago, which is dialogue is not conversation. So if you are a writer or you're looking to write, and actually there's a flip side here. If you're not a writer, don't talk like people talk in books. And that goes, if you're a writer, don't write conversation like people talk in real life. Neither one of those works. Just transcribe a conversation, you'll see what I mean. There is a contrivance to how dialogue is done in books. That is, here's the art of dialogue in a book. It is a contrived way of talking that no one talks like. However, if it's done well, people don't notice that. That's the balance that you have to figure out. So dialogue is not conversation. GS says dialogue is monologue. Not exactly. It can be monologues. Dialogue is two ideas that people don't usually openly state. Two different motivations, two different goals going head to head. Or sometimes 3 or 4, depending on what it is. It is the battles. You know, in a movie, you'll see the superhero pull out their shield and fight. In comic books and in writing, you'll see a lot more conversation and argument and things like that, and manipulation through language, because that feels more like action. In a book, dialogue is action. It's not conversation, and it's not the same as how people converse. And that's my only advice. Which means that we have reached the end of the show. Well, I really appreciate you guys coming by this time. And I appreciate you making Smudge feel so welcome. He doesn't care. I hope to do some more fun things like this that people will enjoy. So if you can think of anything that you would like to see done, or you want to do with our group of people here and write out, we can certainly do that. I will always be willing to write about my cat, but I think there's a limit to how much entertainment I could get that. Well, thank you to you, Big Drew, for showing up. Thank you to Holly and Vanessa and Suki and GS and Nathan, anybody else I might be forgetting, and I know there's some lurkers in the background. Thank you to you too. You aren't obligated to use the chat. But if you ever want to, you can drop a message or a comment, or you can go to our Instagram or Twitter at Varietal_lit, and you can leave comments there if you prefer. But it's always good to hear from you. I'm a flexible guy, so if there's anything you want to do, I will do it. Holly says do the snake next. The snake would be so simple. They're psychopathic and really dumb. GS says you think of the most original ideas. Do I? Is this original? Well, anyways, there was an episode of the Varietal Show. If you like that, we have a whole playlist of it on the channel. If you would prefer to listen to some stories, this last Tuesday, I had my friend Joe tell us some Cree folk tales from his own traditions. And you really should check out that video. He reads even an original piece based around some of his childhood tales he'd heard about. He is the CBC shortlist nonfiction, well, not winner, but he was on the shortlist for nonfiction CBC's contest last year, and he is currently working on a book with a publisher, which is as sexy as you get with writing. So go check out that video. It has his name in it. And thank you to everybody who showed up. Don't forget to like the video, because Smudge made you. He did not agree to come on here without that. And beyond that, it's really great to see you. But as you know, the shop is closed. So you can go wherever you want. Go enjoy the sun. Do whatever you want. But you can't stay here. Have a good evening. But the shop is closed. Get out. Oh my god.